I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight. And so if you're joining us, then you can just hop in and I'm going to save a little bit of time at the end to answer any questions that you may have. So feel free to drop those in the chat and we'll come back to them at the end and I'll answer all the questions that you might have about chiropractic care. So thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Rooted and Regulated presentation. We're going to talk about a better way to support sensory and neurodivergent kids. So in case you don't know me, welcome. My name is Dr. Alisha Davis, and I have been practicing in Raleigh for over 26 years. And I am a mom to two kids. I have a dad that's a chiropractor, and my sister is also a chiropractor. And believe it or not, when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a pediatrician because I absolutely love working with kids. But my sister was in chiropractic school at the time, and she's like, you can be a chiropractor and work with kids. And I was like, okay, so major change, career path change, and here I am 26 years later. I have a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old, and so when my second child was born, you kind of get that mom gut and that mom instinct that something's not quite right. And with all my years in chiropractic school, I was really struggling to try to figure out how that I could best help him and help kind of not fix him, but really help him thrive better than he was doing. And that really began my quest in working and learning more about kids on the spectrum and those neurodivergent children. So we went through feeding therapy, we went through speech therapy, we went through occupational therapy. School was hard for him. He does not fit in a box. And it was a journey, one that I can say that has really helped me to be able to help the moms in my practice. I will say that he's 20 and he's actually going to graduate college early and has found something that he's truly passionate about, which is what we want for all of our kids. So when I say that I've walked in your shoes, I really have walked in your shoes, and I'm here to support you each step of the way. Oftentimes, our kids are labeled as bad behavior, but it can really be a brain and nervous system issue. And so that's what we're going to go through and talk about. So what's really going on? So 1 in 5 kids are diagnosed as neurodivergent. When I was in chiropractic school, that number was 1 in 100 that were diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Then it dropped to 1 in 75, then it dropped to 1 in 50, and now we're at 1 in 31 kids diagnosed. That number's a lot. ADHD, SPD, OCD, sleep issues, learning challenges, they're at an all-time high for our kids. 40% of kids struggle with an anxiety disorder, and that's a lot. So what makes that sensory and neurodivergent brain different? The brain takes in more sensory information, but really struggles to filter that out. Your child may have a faster than normal processing speed, or they may be slower. All of that information is just coming in and their body's not able to process it effectively. Their nervous system needs extra support to kind of downshift into that calm state. And these kids often have very intense emotions. They feel deeply, they love fiercely, they think differently than other kids, but that's what makes them each special. So how can chiropractic care help? So I could talk about chiropractic forever, but I'm going to just kind of give you an overview so that you understand a little bit more of that impact. So the brain and the spine are that command center, and they actually control everything in our body. The nervous system controls everything from focus to digestion to immunity to emotions and energy and sleep, the way your heart beats, the way your lungs breathe. Everything is controlled by that nervous system. And our nervous system needs to be in balance and not in fight or flight or that rest and digest phase. We need to have a balance between the two sides of the nervous system. And kids often get stuck in that survival mode or fight or flight. So typically when we have kids that come in that are neurodivergent, their nervous system is really stuck on that fight or flight. And it's our job as chiropractors to help regulate that and shift that back towards normal. So how can chiropractic care help? So chiropractic is not just for pain relief. And actually people are surprised to know that only 10% of that nervous system feels pain. And so when people say to me, oh, you're a chiropractor, I don't need to come in, I don't have any back pain. I remind them that 90% of the nervous system does not feel pain. And so we can have stress on our nervous system that needs to be addressed and taken care of with chiropractic care. So we're all about helping balance that nervous system. And so an adjustment is going to remove that nerve interference so that that brain and body communicate clearly. And that's what we want to focus on. So when we restore that communication between the brain and the body, we get better nervous system regulation. Those children are able to function easier and able to thrive. So, what might be some signs of dysregulation? So, your kid's in constant motion, constant meltdowns, they have trouble sleeping. Those transitions are difficult, picky eating, kind of fear based behaviors that they may be experiencing, frequent illness, poor immune function. These are cues that the nervous system is under stress. They're not bad behavior. And so that's what we want to take a look at. So, what are some causes of nervous system stress? So, a stressful pregnancy can be a big one, and birth trauma. Personally, myself, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and was going through a cancer battle between my first, and then she passed away between my first and my second child. So, my body was personally under a lot of stress, and I know that that really had to play a role on both of my children. Toxin overload. So that can be the chemicals that we use in our home, our cleaning products, our laundry detergent, our bath products. That also includes the food we eat, the water that we drink. And also for kids, it's really also the health of mom and dad during the pregnancy, because that can be a big toxin exposure as well. A lack of play. So just really that digital overload, kids constantly on devices, not getting outside. I feel like kids need to live outside and be barefoot. I think that's just the best way for that nervous system to develop properly. And then the gut brain dysfunction. That's also a big key that we're going to talk about a little as well. So the vagus nerve is one of the most powerful nerves, I feel like, in the body, and it runs from the brainstem to every major organ in our body. It's a key player in helping calm the body and help regulate that nervous system. So one of the best ways to stimulate and regulate that nerve, that vagus nerve, is with a chiropractic adjustment. And so the two main areas that we look at for that vagus nerve is this upper cervical spine here and also the sacrum. And so those both make up that parasympathetic nervous system. And so that's just a really key area in helping regulate their body. So conditions that we see in the office, torticollis, breastfeeding challenges, reflux, constipation, ear infections, those are typically the things that we see in younger kids. And then as they start to age, those conditions become a little bit different. So we may have ADD, ADHD diagnosis, we may have autism, we may have sensory challenges, headaches, neck pain, back pain. We do see kids for that as well, but also for scoliosis and posture abnormalities. So those are things that we do see routinely in the office. So what are some red flags to watch out for? And so I think it starts just even right out of the womb. Like, do they have that tilted head as they start to crawl? Do we have that uneven crawl, or like we like to call it the janky leg crawl, where one leg is up and one leg is down? That's a sign that there's some pelvic imbalance. Frequent tantrums can also be a red flag. Toe walking and those delayed milestones. So it is so important for kids to hit every single milestone. They are important for brain development and nervous system development. And so I had this conversation today with a mom who said that her child's daycare worker wasn't concerned that their child wasn't crawling, that they have a lot of kids just skip crawling and go right to walking. And the mom was like, absolutely not. And I was like, no, you're right. Like, every milestone is so important. We also see kids with bedwetting and immune struggles, trouble sleeping, lack of focus. These are things that can have an impact coming from that nervous system. Poor posture and even abnormal gait as they get older. So when you look at your child, do they have one shoulder higher than the other? Do they still have that head tilt to one side? Are their hips even? Do you see a foot flare in or out, or those knees in or out? Those are signs that there's some nervous system stress. So some tips to support their nervous system. some things that were super important for us when my kids were younger was that predictable routine. And so the more consistent that we had our daily routine, that it made transition so much easier when they knew what to expect and what was going to happen next. I also had a bunch of crash pillows when they were younger. We had a calm down corner at home with weighted blankets. Now they have really cute weighted loveys. And also we would do sensory boxes. And I tell parents just head to the dollar store, buy a bunch of straws and whistles and bubbles. All of that oral input to the mouth is so important and beneficial in helping regulate their nervous system. Other things that we use are essential oils. So peace and calming and lavender are two of my favorite essential oils that really help with helping to regulate that nervous system. Just a little story about the peace and calming. That was the one oil that I fell in love with from Young Living. And if you are going to smell an essential oil, within 22 seconds, it reaches the limbic system in your brain and can have an impact on your mood and your emotion. And this was our game changer oil when my kids were younger. I would put it on my daughter on the back of her neck or on her wrists. And within just a short period of time, you could really see her start to calm down and really start to see better regulation. So oils can be very beneficial as well. Other things that we did were deep pressure. We would do like Superman, where our kids would lay on their back and like push up on us. You can also do some joint compression, frequent movement breaks, make a fun obstacle course in the house with tunnels, have a pull-up bar, put a bunch of heavy stuff in a backpack and let them run around. Just constant like deep pressure into their joints is so helpful. And then belly massage, tummy rubs. So that's where you're going to also be able to impact that vagus nerve as well as doing some abdominal massage, and that deep pressure can also help really calm them down. So one of the things that I love about our practice, this is actually Dr. Beasley. She's the other chiropractor in our office. We do these insight nervous system scans. And so I'm going to explain them to you and then show you an example. And I love them. It allows us to monitor a child's care. We typically repeat their scans every 12 visits so that we can see the progression, alter their care plan, make modifications as we need to as they go along. But the first one is a thermal scanner, and that is what we're showing here in the picture. The thermal scanner runs up their back from bottom to top, and then also under each side of their ear. And those temperature changes show up on the scan as nervous system stress, and that's what we're measuring. So it identifies those areas where that nervous system is stuck on. It shows us how the brain and the body are communicating together, and it pinpoints those areas where there may be stress patterns that can impact mood, digestion, sleep, or their behaviors. Because remember, we're only looking at about 10% to feel pain. So we want to see what's happening inside the body. And this is one of our tools that we use. The other one is called HRV, or heart rate variability, and we have three different ways that we can measure it in the office. The one that you see here, the little girl has an ear clip on. We have a finger scanner, and we also have a hand cradle, just depending on the age of the child. But what it does is it's measuring their heart rate over about 3 minutes. And so while we are at rest, our heart rate should be pretty stable. We shouldn't have a lot of fluctuations up and down. It should be nice and steady. And so this picks that up. So it lets us see how their body is handling stress from the inside out. So we want to see that balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So are they stuck in fight or flight, or are they stuck on that rest and digest? So we want to see, are they able to grow, or are they stuck in that survival mode? And most kids that come in that are neurodivergent or have sensory or sleep or behavioral challenges, they usually have very low adaptability. And that's what that scan helps us measure. So this is a scan sample of a patient, and this bottom row here is the first set of scans that they had when they came into our practice, and this is the second set after 12 visits. And this from the dates, I think it's about a month apart. But the first one here that you are looking at is their heart rate variability. And so what we want to see is this white square that you see here. This is the patient. We want to see it here in this green region and close to midline. So this gives us an indication here that that child is stuck in that sympathetic nervous system or that fight or flight. And the child had really great progress within that first month of care, almost midline and right in that green region, which is where we actually want to see them. Both of these scans are measuring for heat and inflammation. This is the thermal scanner. I'm just going to explain this one because it's easier to explain. But what we want to see on these scans is white. So the more stress and inflammation the body is under, the different colors it represents. So green is mild, blue moderate, red is severe. So you can see we had all this inflammation when the child started here and down into this region as well. And just in a short period of time, they actually had really good results. And we were happy with their progress. So just to kind of show you what that one looks like. So a couple of little stories about healing and hope with some of the moms in our practice. Patients often ask me, what are some kind of things that we're going to notice with our child as they start care? And I usually will tell them three things that we want to see happen, and usually we'll see is they eat better, they sleep better, and they poop better. And so if you think about these three things, in babies, they happen automatically. Like we should not even have to think about them. And so that just tells us that that nervous system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's nice and balanced. They're able to sleep. The bowels are working really well. That nervous system is in a true state of calm. And that's what we want to see with these kids. So moms will say, that their child's sleeping through the night again, where they might not have been before. They're less anxious at school. The meltdowns that they're having have really decreased. Moms will say, they changed nothing else in the home or with their other therapies, but that their nervous system is what we changed. And that's where we were seeing those really great changes with the kids. So what does care look like in our office? We strive to have a very safe, sensory-friendly space for kids. We have two kid adjusting rooms. This one is we call it the jungle room. We have a lion, we have jungle decals on the wall. The sensory board that you saw in some of the other pictures, that is also in this room. It's my personal favorite room. We also have another kids room with an owl table, very similar, with trees and birds. And so we just really want the kids to feel safe in our space. We have hopscotch on the floor that sometimes you'll see the adults hop along as well. But we want the kids to feel welcome. We want them to feel safe. A lot of times parents will say, my child is never going to sit still for you. They're not going to let them touch you or let me touch them. And sometimes, we have to earn that child's trust. That may look like us sitting on the floor with them. It may be playing at one of the little kitchens or the sensory table with them. I've adjusted kids standing up before. So you have to modify exactly what that child needs. And the adjustments are very gentle, very kid specific. With all that continuing ed I had, it was really to learn to be able to care for children differently. So we do offer ongoing progress scans. Like I mentioned, we do those every 12 visits, and we do support you, mom and dad. Like I said, I have walked in your shoes. I know how hard it is. I know that sometimes it can feel overwhelming and stressful, and we just want you to know we're there to help you. We also create some customized essential oil plans and supplement plans based on what your child needs individually. And then lastly, like if you're curious about next steps for your child, we encourage you to schedule a visit with our office. We would love to chat with you and do the nervous system scans just to see how well your child is adapting. We also have a free Calm kit that you can download from our Instagram that will just give you some tips of things to do at home to help support your child. And then you can follow us at Davis Chiro NC to learn more about our office. I do want to mention we have two things that we're doing through the rest of June. We're going to send out an email with details as well, but we would love for you to join us. We typically do some fun stuff in the summer, and next Thursday, the 19th, we have Jam's ice cream truck will be there. So it's a great way for you to come out, meet the doctors, see our practice. We're partnering up with Ivy Rehab for Kids that's next door, and it's just going to be a fun afternoon in our parking lot. And then also we are offering a $49 new patient special through the end of June. So like I said, that will get emailed out to you also with a copy of the recording. But that is all I have. I'm going to stop my screen share and see if anybody has any questions. I see Elizabeth, you've joined. You will get a recording later in case you didn't get to join us live. But I appreciate everybody joining tonight. Elizabeth, do you have any questions for me at all? If you do, you can pop them in the chat. Otherwise, I will just end our call. Awesome. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great night. Bye-bye. Oh, you still there?